If you're thinking about starting a podcast for your business, or maybe you've already launched and you're just not seeing the results that you'd hoped for, I want to ask you something. How much time have you spent researching microphones, recording software, and the best platform to host it on? And now, how much time have you spent asking yourself, what do I actually want this podcast to do for my business? Who is my ideal client? And why will they tune in every single time I drop an episode? Now, I'm guessing there's going to be a little bit of a gap there. And honestly, it's not your fault. The podcasting industry has it completely backwards. I know getting started on the actual recording is exciting, and I get why people jump straight in. But in this video, I want to show you exactly when is the right time to invest in support for your podcast. Because getting the timing wrong is the difference between a show that builds your business and months of effort that leads you nowhere. Now, here's what I mean when I say that the industry has it backwards. Just the other day, I came across an episode that said, How to Start a Podcast in 2026. I thought, brilliant, let's have a listen. This is exactly the kind of thing I love geeking out on. And the entire episode was about the tech setup, the microphones, the software, the lighting rigs. Not one mention about strategy, not one question as to why you're doing it or who you're doing it for. And that is creating a real problem because the how is just so easy to find. Just a quick Google and you have all of that set up. But the why, that's where the podcasts actually come to live or die. According to Podcast Insights, 90% of podcasts fail within the first year. And the main reason for that isn't poor audio quality or the wrong microphone. It's lack of clear direction and purpose. Think about it. 9 out of 10 shows disappear because people jump straight in to the doing without understanding the reasoning why. And in a 2025 report from the Podcast Marketing Academy, found that even among the shows with over 10,000 downloads per episode, only 25% had a well-defined growth strategy. If the big shows are struggling to do this, what does that tell you about the importance of getting the strategy right from the very start? So the question isn't really, should I invest in podcast support? It's, when is the right moment to do that? And the answer is probably going to surprise you. I'm going to show you exactly when that moment is and what happens when you get it right. Here's the thing. The best time to invest in a podcast support is before you've made any of those major decisions on your show. Before you've chosen the format, before you planned the first episode, before you have bought anything. I know that might feel a little counterintuitive because the exciting part is getting started, right? But think about it this way. If you were building a house, you wouldn't start laying bricks before you had the architecture draw up plans, right? You'd have a clear picture of what you're building, who's going to live it, and what function it needs before you start building anything. Podcasting is a little bit the same. The decisions you make right at the start about your positioning, your ideal client, the format, and what makes you worth listening to, those decisions shape everything that comes after. Get that right, and every episode you record builds on that solid foundation. Getting them wrong, and you're 6 months in wondering why nobody is bothering to listen. The good news is, if you're watching this before you've launched, you're in the perfect position. Your mind is open, and nothing's been locked in yet, and you can build the whole thing strategically from the ground up. But what if you've already launched and things aren't quite working out for you? Don't go anywhere, because that's exactly what I'm going to talk about next. When I talk about investing in podcast support, I don't mean telling you which microphone to buy. The real support means working through those questions that define the show before recording a single word. Questions like, what's your backstory? Why are you the right person talking about this topic? What's your personality on the mic? And how do you want people to feel after listening? Who is your ideal listener? And what problems does your show solve for them? And what format and structure is going to make this sustainable for you in the long run? These aren't just nice to have conversations. These are the foundation that the entire show is built on. I had a client, a career and happiness coach, who came to me knowing she wanted to launch a podcast. She had a name in mind, a rough direction, a sense of who she wanted to reach, but she had no idea on how to actually get started. And she was completely terrified of the tech side of things. A self-confessed technophobe. Her words. So we started with the strategy. We spent time really articulating who she was as a coach, what made her different, what made her someone worth listening to. And we mapped out her ideal clients, the kind of people she was trying to attract. And we pulled content themes around what she wanted her listeners to take away from each episode. Then, once the strategy was solid, we handled all the tech for her. We recommended the microphone, the lighting, the recording software. We built out the help documents for her and her guests so that everything was all set up before anybody had to press record. She didn't need to learn a single technical thing. She just showed up and talked. She went on to record 40 plus episodes. She said that having that clear strategic direction made it so much easier to write episodes with her clients in mind, even once the initial nerves had settled. That is what the right support looks like. Not just the tech, strategy first, then everything else built up around it. Now you might be thinking, this sounds great, but does it really make a difference to the results? Let me show you what the data is saying. Here's something worth sitting with for a moment. Podcasting is a long game. It's not something you do for 8 weeks and then see if you get a flood of new clients. It's a trust-building tool, and trust takes time and consistency. The problem is that most experts who launch a podcast without a clear strategy find themselves burning out after a few months. The episodes feel like a chore, the content feels disconnected, and they're not sure if it's working, and eventually the show just quietly stops. But when you've got a clear strategy in place, something shifts. You know exactly who you're talking to. You know what each episode is meant to do. You're not sitting down to record wondering what to say because you're not constantly second-guessing yourself. The whole thing becomes sustainable. And you don't have to do it all on your own. You can delegate the production side, the editing, the distribution, and the repurposing, meaning that your time goes where it matters the most, the thinking and the talking. That's the job for you. Everything else can be handled. So whether you're about to launch your first episode or you're a few months in wondering why the traction isn't there, the answer is almost always the same. Go back to the strategy, get that foundation solid, and everything else becomes easier from there. So where are you right now? Are you at the start, excited but not quite sure how to build on this properly? Or are you already a few episodes in and feeling like something's not quite right? Either way, I've put together a free 1-page podcast strategy blueprint for you to help you work through those 6 fundamentals that every successful show is built on. Your backstory, your expertise, your personality, the problem your show solves, your ideal listener, and then the format going forward. It's a simple, fillable document that you can work through in one sitting, and it'll give you a really clear picture on what your show needs to be before you invest another minute on the tech side of things. The link to download this is in the description below. And if this video has got you thinking, I'd love to know where you are in your podcast journey. Drop it in the comments. Are you in the pre-launch, ready to get going, or somewhere in between? I'll see you in the next one.